Greetings and welcome back to our Healthy Living on the Go series. My name is Ruth Miller and I'm a physical therapist with Health Pro Heritage. Our family of therapists, wellness, and fitness experts have worked with seniors just like you for more than 20 years. Our job is to keep you moving and learning each and every day, even during the quieter times at your community. So today, our video is Learning on the Move, Movement and Brain Connection. So why do we exercise? Some people exercise for physical health, while others exercise to prevent disease. And some people just exercise because it makes them feel better. One of the reasons we should exercise is for brain health. In fact, movement can act like a wonder drug for the brain even before it benefits the body. The brain does not store its own fuel or produce its own fuel, but the brain relies on the body to get its needed fuel, which is, of course, oxygen and glucose. The healthier and more physically active the body is, the more efficiently the brain functions. Although your brain is only about 2% of your body weight, it uses more than 20% of your oxygen intake. Years of sedentary behavior and poor dietary choices can result in sluggish arterial blood flow to the brain, causing interference with memory and other mental functions. Movement, according to Dr. John Rady, unleashes a cascade of neurochemicals and growth factors that counter the effects of age. He also says that neurons in the brain connect to one another through the leaves on a tree-like branch, and exercise causes those branches to grow and bloom with new buds, thereby enhancing brain function at a fundamental level. If we think back to just 70 years ago, most Americans made their living through some kind of active labor, and much of it was agricultural. While that was a harder way to earn a living, it meant they spent their days outdoors, got plenty of sunshine and fresh air, and they moved their bodies for several hours, usually 6 days a week. But nowadays, that isn't usually the case. So the minimum amount of weekly physical activity recommended for adults by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention are at least 2.5 hours of moderate intensity aerobic activity per week, or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity aerobic activity per week, plus muscle strengthening activity on at least 2 days per week. So it's a combination of aerobic activity and muscle strengthening activity. And notice that the 2.5 hour weekly minimum versus the 6 to 10 hour days of movement that used to happen 70 years ago. So we're not suggesting that you have to exercise 6 to 10 hours a day, but we are suggesting that you think about physical activity differently. Our society has evolved to move, so let's be creative and think of movement in a broader way than just exercise, and find more ways to build it into our daily lives. Now, our ancestors didn't have to think about this. They couldn't have avoided movement if they'd wanted to, but we can avoid it clearly, and many of us do, much to the detriment of our brains. So let's look at some benefits our brains experience from movement. Movement grows a bigger brain. There's a mounting evidence that physical activity protects the brain. Brain scans are showing that it can actually make your brain grow larger. Researchers at the University of Edinburgh followed 600 people for 3 years, starting at the age of 70. The subjects kept detailed logs of their activities, and after 3 years, they underwent brain scans. It was found that their brains did shrink a bit over time, but those who were sedentary lost the most brain volume, while those who remained physically active had the least amount of brain shrinkage. Being active helped preserve brain size. Another study showed that walking could increase the size of brain's memory center. Scientists scanned the brains of 120 older adults over the course of a 1-year period. None of them were exercising regularly at the start of the study. So half the group started an exercise program by walking 45 minutes a day for 3 days a week, and the other half did not. So, as you can imagine, at the end of a year, the walking group had 2% greater volume of the hippocampus, which is responsible for memory, while the non-exercise group actually lost 1.5% of their brain tissue. The walking group also had better memory than the non-walking group. So who wouldn't want a bigger brain and better memory just from walking 3 times a week? Movement makes you happier. There are few things that you can do for yourself that boost your mood as reliably as movement. Movement elicits chemical changes in the brain by balancing the neurotransmitter endorphins, dopamine, cortisol, and serotonin. So another study looked at the impact of walking on depression. 150 individuals with treatment-resistant major depressive disorders defined as lack of improvement after 9 to 15 months on 2 or more different antidepressants, they were initially screened. 33 were randomized to one of 2 groups. One was the usual pharmacotherapy that had 11 participants, and the second group, the usual pharmacotherapy and aerobics exercise, and that had 22 participants. The aerobic exercise program consisted of home-based 30 to 45 minute a day walks, 5 days a week, for 12 weeks, with 1 walk a week being supervised. So the results, remarkably, the walking group got better in all measures of depression, and most of them improved significantly. So compare that to the control group who did not exercise. None of them showed improvement with regards to depression. So the answer, walk more, do more physical activity. The third area is movement protects your memory. Researchers that conducted a Gallup poll of over 18,000 adults, they assessed the health-related behaviors like smoking, diet, and exercise to see if they correlated with memory problems throughout life. And this was from UCLA. A significant number of young people, anyone from the ages of 18 to 39, voiced concerns about their memory. The researchers concluded that those memory concerns were due to stress and multitasking, as opposed to actual brain disease. The group of seniors, those who were from 60 to 99 years old, were most likely to practice healthy behaviors. The more they chose healthy activities, including exercise, the less they expressed concerns about memory. So while none of this proves that movement protects against memory loss, it does support the idea that movement is good for your brain. Comparing all lifestyles, exercise seems to have the most going for it when it comes to protecting our brains from memory problems as we age. So why don't we all just get moving? As always, before beginning any new exercise or movement program, be sure to be guided by your physician regarding how to start the program and how quickly to increase your activity levels, especially if you have any known heart condition, any chest discomfort with or without any exertion, loss of balance with dizziness, or any loss of consciousness, if you have joint problems, if you take medication for high blood pressure or any heart problems, or any other reason that you're avoiding physical activity, please consult your physician. So a concept to help for a more youthful brain is called Symphony for a youthful brain. 3 movements and a coda was outlined by Dr. Henry Emmons and David Alter in their book, Staying Sharp. And they highlight that it's movement that's important, not necessarily exercise when it comes to brain health. So the following three forms of movement can be done separately, but when performed in sequence, they build upon each other, much like a symphony. So as long as you move and do it as often and as consistently as possible, you'll be building a better brain. So the first movement in our symphony is called andante. The term andante literally means slowly or at a walking pace. The most essential aspect of movement can be summarized in just two words: just move. Movement should be intentional, purposeful, frequent, repetitive, and integrated into your daily life. So there's two types of movement for most people: standing and walking. So first we're going to talk about the standing. Dr. Joan Vernikov, who was previously the director of NASA's Life Sciences Division, part of her job was keeping the astronauts healthy, and she wrote a book, Sitting Kills and Moving Heals, where she makes the point that sitting for prolonged periods of time can be unhealthy, even for those that are in great shape and exercise regularly. So it was observed years ago, according to Dr. Vernikov, that astronauts appeared to age prematurely while in space for prolonged periods of time, much like a person who's confined to bed or to bed rest, or a person who's not moving much. They lose muscle mass at a very rapid pace. This seemed to be due to the lack of movement against gravity. So how do we remedy that? By constantly interacting with gravity and engaging our large postural muscles to maintain functional movement, muscle tone, and flexibility. So just stand up. You don't even need to stand up for long periods of time, but you need to stand up many times throughout the day. Recurrent movement trumps concentrated bursts of exercises in this case. So standing up several times per hour, at least every 30 minutes or so throughout your day. And if you need to set a timer to help you remember, do so. And while you're standing, maybe do a couple of slow squats before you sit back down. Or get up and reach for a book, or get yourself something to drink before you sit back down. Maybe you can organize your space so that you have things to get up for, like you have to get up for the TV remote, or a newspaper, or grabbing a drink. So set yourself up that way. Walking. There's no better way for most of us to incorporate movement into our lives than walking. It's inexpensive, it takes little training, it's safe for almost any ability level, and it's almost always available. So as we've seen through several studies, walking has numerous benefits. It improves bone density. It can help grow a bigger brain. It can boost your mood. It can preserve your memory. And it can help strengthen all major muscle groups. If you're goal-driven, buy a pedometer or have an iPhone that counts your steps. Aim for 2,000 steps a day at first, and then gradually work your way up to the recommended 10,000 steps a day. Remember, you don't have to take all the steps at once. It's the amount over the course of the day that counts. So how to walk? If you want to think about standing up right now and participating in this bit of a demonstration, you want to stand tall and upright rather than leaning forward. Keep your buttocks tucked in so that you slightly flatten the arch in your back. Lengthen your body with your head held high and your chin up. Aim your gaze about 20 feet in front of you instead of down towards your feet. So now that you're standing, before you start walking, relax your shoulders by rolling them forward, up, back, and letting them drop down. Gently pinching your shoulder blades together. So try that. Try and pinch your shoulder blades together. Bend your elbows slightly as your arm falls to your side, allowing them to swing freely. Your arms will fall into a natural rhythm with the opposite arm and leg forward together. It's a natural rhythm that happens. You want to take short strides as you walk, and you want to strike your heel first, and then pushing off with your toes. Use your buttock muscles to propel you forward with each step. So researchers at the Mayo Clinic termed any movement that is not done for the sake of fitness as non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Thermogenesis has to do with metabolism. It means you burn calories with movement of any kind. Although for the first movement, Andante, we focused on standing and walking. There are obviously plenty of everyday activities or forms of movement that you can do to raise your metabolism and do good things for your brain. The second movement is called adagio. Adagio literally means at ease and describes music performed at a slow and steady pace. This is mindful movement, which in this case is slow, flowing, graceful, and purposeful. Any movement you do can be done with greater awareness and presence. So for this movement, we'll be focusing on yoga and balance. Yoga offers many benefits. It's peaceful and calming, but it can be a little more vigorous at times. It involves gentle stretching along with resistance. It's especially good for core muscles that are so important for maintaining posture and is great for people who have back pain. Yoga is another movement activity that can be done at any age because it can be modified for any level. Your community wellness program probably has a yoga class, and if you're unable to attend a yoga class, or you can see yoga online, there's also yoga DVDs that are available for you to use. Moving on to balance, since loss of balance in poise increase the risk of injury from falls, this aspect of exercise becomes more and more important as we get older. Balance is physical equilibrium. It's also defined as an even distribution of weight, enabling someone or something to remain upright and steady. Poise is grace in action. It's an expression of the optimal distribution of energy, the right amount, in the right place, at the right time. Physical balance and poise can have a profound effect on your dignity, composure, and grace throughout life. You have the ability to prevent age-related frailty associated with loss of balance and poise by incorporating simple balance exercises into your everyday life. As you go about your day, you call on your body to keep you upright, maintain your equilibrium, and anticipate obstacles and react to them accordingly. These all require good posture and continued awareness of maintaining your center of gravity over your base of support, which is basically maintaining your center of gravity over your ankles so that you're not too far backward and you're not leaning too far forward. Activities that work on stressing your balance systems will add to your overall safety. So one example is standing on a single leg. So if you want to try this, I would ask you to try this holding on to a chair at first, because this activity is standing on one leg like a flamingo. It's one of the simplest ways to cultivate balance. So to start this, you want to stand up and hold on to a chair either with one hand or with both hands. So you stand behind the chair and you stand with your feet together and your arms at your side or holding on to the chair. You want to lift one leg and balance, just stay standing on the other leg. You want to count and time yourself. So count for at least 10 seconds, and then you can repeat this activity with the other leg. You want to keep your eyes open, and then if you feel comfortable, you can let go of one hand off the chair and eventually the other hand. To make it more challenging, once you're able to stand for at least 10 seconds without holding on, you can bring your arms out to the side. So we do have some handouts available. We do have balance exercise for home practice, as well as tips for exercising. The third movement in our symphony is called Allegro. Allegro movements are fast and quick. This movement is more active, and it's usually referred to the components of exercise. It can be vigorous it can be as vigorous and intense as you like, as long as it's done safely. And if you have been inactive to this point, so this part of the movement program needs to be incorporated slowly and definitely needs to be cleared by your physician. Aerobic exercise gets the majority of attention, but we're going to focus on interval training and progressive resistance training because they do offer the most benefit for brain health. So let's start with interval training. It can be the most efficient and most effective and most beneficial to the brain in all forms of movement, according to the authors of Staying Sharp. Interval training promotes weight loss, raises your metabolic rate for 24 to 48 hours, which allows you to burn calories long after you've stopped exercising. It improves levels of hormones, including cortisol, testosterone, and human growth hormone. It protects against adult onset diabetes. It can boost your energy, focus, and performance, and it does help slow the aging process. Interval training can be done at any skill level and involves increasing your current pace. For brief spurts, 20 to 30 seconds is even enough. And any activity can be used for interval training, whether it's walking, marching, biking, running, swimming, and even dancing. So you'd want to choose an activity that you like to do. You want to start incorporating interval training slowly. You can build the intensity as you become more fit. Do them once or twice a week for 10 or 15 minutes. So here's an example of an interval training program. So if you want to try this, we're not going to do it for 10 or 15 minutes, but here's the example. Let's use marching in place. So if you want to stand up, holding onto that chair in front of you to start, or you can let go if you can. Begin with 2 to 3 minutes of a warm-up. So if we're marching, we would do a slow march at first. Then you begin to go faster and harder for 30 seconds. So start marching a little harder, a little faster. If you're just starting out on the interval training, you don't need to pick it up so quickly, but you just slowly pick up the pace. And as you progress, you gradually push yourself harder until you reach a pace that speaking or holding a conversation is a little more difficult. Then you want to slow down to a recovery pace, similar to the warm-up speed, and give yourself about 1 to 2 minutes of recovery. Repeat this with another 20 to 30 second burst of activity, followed by another 1 to 2 minutes of recovery. You do this 3 to 4 cycles or 3 to 4 times, gradually working up to 6 to 8 burst recovery cycles. For our progressive resistance, again, which is part of Staying Sharp, progressive resistance or strength training helps protect your joints, improves your sleep, creates stronger bones, can tone your muscles, improve your mood, and prevent falls, and promote growth of new brain cells. Progressive resistance simply means that you get stronger by adding resistance over time. You can do this through yoga, with hand weights, with some weight machines, using resistive bands, and you can even use the weight of your own body. You can also include hobbies like gardening if they involve lifting, digging, or any hauling. So some progressive strength tips to train. You now have to start slowly with a low amount of resistance, and then you increase the resistance gradually. You want to include all the large muscle major groups: legs, hips, back, your chest, your stomach, your shoulders, and your arms. You also want to make sure that you warm up at least 10 minutes before you start your strength training or your progressive strength training, and you also need to cool down at least 10 minutes afterwards. You might experience some soreness in your muscles, and that's to be expected, but you should stop if you feel sudden onset of pain, especially in your joints. You want to maintain good upright posture during all the exercise. And most important, you do not want to hold your breath while exercising. You have to include breathing and make sure that you breathe on the exertion part of the exercise. Don't grip your weights too tightly, and all movements should be done in a slow to moderate and deliberate manner. So the CODA, movement for lifetime. Movement should be fun. The best way to ensure that you will move is to choose movement activities that you will enjoy. Move with others when you can, and for now, we understand that that's a little bit more difficult. Above all, just move. So putting it all together in an ideal movement plan, according to Drs. Emmons and Alters from their Symphony for a Youthful Brain, 3 movements and a CODA, every day, for an ideal movement plan, every day, stand up for 30 minutes throughout the day. Never sit for extended periods without moving against gravity. Incorporate a variety of non-exercise movements throughout each day. Walk for 30 to 45 minutes several days per week, or you can choose biking, swimming, dancing, whatever movement you prefer, at a light to moderate pace. Twice a week, do a 10 to 15 minutes of interval training, and on alternate days, do some form of medium weight bearing resistance work, like yoga, resistance bands, hand weights, gardening, something that you're standing and you actually have to physically put weight through your legs. And once a week, take a day of rest. And don't forget, along with our Healthy Living on the Go, we have exercise videos that you can use to help or incorporate exercise as included with your walking. If you cannot do the ideal movement plan, there is a good enough plan. This good enough plan will still accomplish the goal of a more useful, vibrant brain. Stand up as often as you can throughout the day. It is important that you remember not to sit too long without moving. Walk or do another light aerobic activity, more days than not. Pick up the pace a few times for just a minute or so, and then slow it down again. And do some sort of weight-bearing activity at least once a week. Try to get 20 minutes of focused activity most days of the week. And please do try and view all of our exercise videos that we have available on our Healthy Living on the Go. So thank you so much for participating in our Healthy Living on the Go, in our moving video. And we're looking forward to visiting with you next time on behalf of the Health Pro Heritage family. Thank you, and have a great day.